From the News 4 Jax I-Team, a wake-up call for parents about their kids and the predators trying to lure them away from home.
He knew the location she lived.
A local grandmother, shocking discovery.
He could have killed you. We wouldn't have never known.
How she figured it out and what deputies are doing to protect your family from neighbors.
Sir, did you download child pornography?
Who may not be who you think they are. We're getting a rare look into the dark and disturbing world of child pornography and sexual predators through the eyes of a specially trained group of deputies. These investigators spend their days searching both the internet and Clay County for criminals who hurt children.
And you're about to hear the story of one family who narrowly avoided the unimaginable. I-Team investigator Jennifer Walsh shows us how the work of these deputies can educate parents to spot the warning signs that their teen could be in danger.
1050, 1900 Block County Road 220.
It's 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Clay County deputies and Homeland Security agents surround a home in a quiet Orange Park neighborhood. They're here to arrest a 27-year-old man who lives inside. Austin Montgomery is accused of watching videos and downloading pictures of children being sexually abused. Investigators say they discovered more than 100 files on his laptop containing images of kids being exploited.
Which is why we're out here doing this every day. And this is our mission, to stop people from perpetrating on children.
This Clay County detective works undercover. It's why he and some others are not being identified. The home they are surrounding is decorated for Halloween. There's a trampoline in the side yard. Montgomery has 2 children. Sir, did you download child pornography? Sir, you have children. Is there anything that you would say to your children and your family about your arrest? He's now on his way to jail.
Caravan's going to the right side of the gate.
Less than 2 weeks later, the same detectives are on another case. This time at a home inside Orange Park Country Club. They have SWAT with them serving a search warrant. An elderly man emerges first. He's clearly shaken. His son follows. And then an elderly woman, distraught to see SWAT outside her home. So are their neighbors.
What do you think when you have emergency vehicles in your front lawn, police all over the place, flashing lights when you wake up? I don't know. It's a little frightening.
Ma'am, what can you tell us about your neighbors?
They're great. Friendly, sweet.
Detectives eventually charged the couple's son, John Mossman.
With this house, we were talking about 166.
That's how many pictures or videos of child pornography have been traced to the 39-year-old. The internet has created an explosion in child pornography. So rampant, Clay County Cybercrimes Unit has grown to 6 investigators. Not all their cases involve porn. Michael McNeil was arrested in August. Investigators say the Navy lieutenant exchanged several lewd text messages referencing naughty pictures and kiddie porn with a man he thought was the uncle of a 12-year-old girl who McNeil wanted to have sex with. When he arrived for the meeting, Sergeant Garrison was waiting.
He was very determined to engage in the sex with the young girl.
Garrison says predators troll any and all social media sites to meet children and teens. Facebook, Instagram, Kik, Meet Me, Craigslist. It happened to this local grandmother's 16-year-old granddaughter.
We pulled up the text message and then we read them, and we were just shocked.
She doesn't want to be identified to protect her granddaughter.
They weren't talking about schoolwork. They were talking about sexual stuff. They were talking about how they were going to meet.
They met on the social network Meet Me. She thought he was 17 years old. He was actually 27. Some of their messages, "You look hot and sexy." And this one, Knickers Beauchamps lives in Pennsylvania.
Did he know where she lives, where she goes to school, things of that nature?
He knew all that. He knew all that. He knew where she went. Yes, he knew all that. This guy could have kidnapped you. He could have took you somewhere and raped you. He could have killed you. We wouldn't have never known because we didn't even know the conversation you were having with him.
This grandmother very likely saved her granddaughter's life because she checked how much data the 16-year-old had been using on her cell phone.
My granddaughter, out of over 9,500 minutes, she had over 6,100 of the 95 minutes, and it's 5 lines on this phone, on my plan.
Detectives say there are 4 musts to make sure your child is not unknowingly talking with a predator. You should perform random audits of their technology, read their text messages, posts, and tweets. Look at all the apps they have downloaded. Who are they communicating with? Collect their passwords so you have access to everything. And if they are hiding their phone when you walk in the room or are spending a lot of time alone in their room, you need to be nosy. And from one parent to another, know this.
You want to trust your kids and you think they're going to do the right thing and you hope they will listen to you and do everything you instill in them, but those predators, they know how to work on their minds and they can change their minds in a matter of seconds.
So even though the man who exchanged lewd messages with her granddaughter has been caught and convicted, Knickers Beauchamps convinced the teen to send him nude photos of herself. And the family has to live with the reality that they will never know what he did with those pictures. You know, once they're sent, they can be online forever, shared, copied, circulated around the world. Now, if you need help navigating apps and social media with your kids, the FBI has partnered with Duval County's Parents Academy to hold meetings to educate you about the latest technology and apps that offenders use to target your kids. Look for the dates and times of those meetings inside this story on news4jax.com. Jennifer Waugh, Channel 4, the local station.
Mary and I, as grandparents, and all of you, we're so grateful to the members of law enforcement who conduct these painstaking and very difficult investigations to keep all of our children and grandchildren safe.
And what a great report, because it's just so eye-opening and
is.
chilling. So join Jen tomorrow on the morning show. She's going to walk you through how predators can use online games like Fortnite to prey on your kids. That's tomorrow morning at 7:45.
This morning, we are continuing the conversation about sexual predators and the techniques they use to try to lure your children and teenagers. So last night at 5 o'clock, we introduced you to this local grandmother who discovered her 16-year-old granddaughter had met a man on the social media network Meet Me. He turned out to be 27 years old, living in Pennsylvania. And in a matter of 2 months, he had learned where the teen lives in Clay County, where she attends school. They also exchanged nude pictures of each other. He has pleaded guilty to possession of child porn. Now, the teen's grandmother believes that he was grooming her and is just thankful that she was able to put a stop to their communication before he traveled to meet her. This morning, Officer Chris Padgett with the Clay County Sheriff's Office is joining us to explain how predators are able to gain the trust of children and basically, Chris, talk them into doing things that they shouldn't, even though in the back of their mind, their parent has probably told them, hey, don't ever do this. Good morning to you. Thanks for being here. So let's start with grooming in case our viewers have never heard this before. What is that?
So grooming is simply the procedure that a lot of our criminals will use to gather information, and it doesn't start blatantly in your face. It's something that is slow, it's a process, and they try to build and gain information. Simple conversation as to, hey, where do you live? What's the weather like where you're at? Things of that nature. And as an adult, sometimes we think, well, that's blatant. But to a child, it's not, because they just say, well, I live in Florida. Oh, wow, what part of Florida? Oh, I live in Orange Park. Oh, man, that's near Jacksonville, right? Because the criminal can be Googling the information they're obtaining to sound like they know. I've got grandparents who live in Jacksonville. I've been to Orange Park. And it just progresses from that point, and before we know it, our youth have given out information that's detrimental to their safety.
Without realizing that mom and dad told them don't ever give out your address, and they feel like they've never given the actual street address, but they've really given the person enough information to be able to track them down. So let's talk about, you know, we hear about social media, and I think that that message has been pretty, you know, obvious to parents, because I know that you talk to parents in schools all the time about Facebook and Instagram, but what about these online games like Fortnite? Because there is, parents may not realize, a chat feature there, and if you've got the, you know, the mic on, as we see our kids will use, they can communicate. Mom and dad can't necessarily even hear what their child is saying to that person.
Right. So as a parent, you wouldn't take your 10-year-old child, drop them off at the mall somewhere, and leave them to go have conversations with strangers.
Yeah,
it's that simple. But we'll let our kids get on online gaming and have open forum chat rooms where they're talking to strangers. And in fact, they're not just talking to strangers that may be at the mall, they're talking to strangers that could be anywhere in the entire world, strangers who have ill intents, and people who get on there to, as we said, groom our children to gather information. It's dangerous.
So it's interesting. My children play Fortnite, and we were having this family discussion after watching the story last night, watching it with the kids, and explaining that what happens here is that these predators know that most kids, as an example, playing Fortnite right now are probably between about 10 and 15. So they already have, it's like this pool of kids
Yes.
right in that age group that they're looking for.
And not just that, let's be honest, when our kids are playing these type of games, they're distracted because they're trying to win. They're trying to concentrate, right, on moving up to the next level or whatever the goal is there. So while that's going on, the criminal also knows that now I can groom them even easier because of the fact that they're not going to be on high alert the way that they normally would be.
Such a great point. And also, something I learned from in working, of course, with the Cybercrimes Unit from Clay County for several weeks, usernames you have to be careful of. I mean,
Yes.
I've taken a closer look at my children's usernames because a lot of times kids put their name in the username, which that person can see.
Yeah, it's kind of like as an adult when we build an email address, right? As an adult, you don't put your name and your birthday as your user portion of that email address. You're not going to put your name and your birthday or your social security number there, but our kids will do that on their usernames because they want to be identifiable, and they're giving away information without even realizing it.
So let's talk about prevention. I called it last night the 4 musts when it
Yes.
comes to parents in protecting to make sure that their child is not communicating unknowingly with a predator. Beginning with random audits of technology.
Yes.
How many times can you say this and you hope that they,
You know, as a parent, a lot of times what we want to say is, I trust my kid. Sometimes I feel like that's a cop-out for us not to invest the time to audit their devices, because let's be honest for a moment, it's not easy. You got to sit down. I have 3 children. My 3 children have smartphones, and I have sat down and it's taken me as long as 3 hours before to go through their pictures, their messages, their histories, their phone log, and all their social media stuff. So to say it's easy would be a lie. That's an understatement. It's not easy, but we have to invest in our children, and auditing is so important.
apps as well, looking at all the apps, not just the posts as you mentioned?
Open the apps and see if your children have multiple usernames under the same app. So if they have an Instagram account, and so do you, and you're on that account, go see if there's a second one. Because sometimes our youth want to break away from their parents, and they may build a separate username under that same app that you may not know as the adult.
And it's interesting, a lot of them have those passcodes on them too, where you have to type it in. Collect those?
Absolutely. I can't even emphasize that enough. If you're a parent and your child has a smartphone and you don't have access to that telephone with the passcode, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing concerning your child's safety.
And very quickly, one of the things that stuck with me after interviewing that local grandmother, she said, you tell your kids, you warn them, you think they're going to do the right things, as you mentioned, and just like that, a predator can just change their minds. This is how manipulative these people can be. And our kids are sitting ducks.
They are. Even as adults, we like to think we're safe, and look at how many adults are victimized. Look at how many people we have who are subject to fraudulent activity. If we as adults who aren't very trusting, right, and we look at people and say, well, they're probably not trustworthy, as adults, we still get scammed. Now, how much more is our youth subject to that, because they tend to be more innocent and more trusting?
Young and naive.
Absolutely.
Chris Padgett from Clay County Sheriff's Office. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thanks, Jen.
Such important information for our parents at home. Now, as I mentioned, I spent several weeks working with the detectives with Clay County's Cybercrimes Unit. These are the guys that are investigating, predators who are luring people out of their kids, out of their homes, child pornography cases, valuable information that they taught us so that we could pass it along to you so you can better protect your kids. So look for my story in case you missed it last night. My I-Team investigation, Catch a Predator. You can find it on news4jax.com.